Hi there, I'm Birgit O'Connor and welcome to my studio. Now today what I'd like to do is show you how to make some little miniature paintings. Now I know you already know how to paint on cards and small images, but what I want to do is try to show you how not to get caught up in too much detail, capture the essence, and keep it simple. Now the other thing was I want to be able to put a border on it without having to get a mat and going through the hassle. So why this even came about was I was asked to do some paintings for a miniature show, and I really didn't want to deal with the framing. I don't mind the frame if it's a standard size frame, I just didn't want to go through the hassle of it. Now, I just happen to have this paper. This was Winsor & Newton hot press paper, and I've never used it. So it gave me an opportunity to actually experiment with it for this show. Now, basically, I took the top sheet off. You'll see that's where you can paint on, or you can separate it. Now, to separate the pad, a lot of times you can take a palette knife or just something and stick it right in here and work your way around the seam. Now the problem with, like, if you just happen to get a knife or a scissors and you just kind of go for it instead of having a palette knife, a really easy trick is to take a little toothpick like that, if you can see that, one of these, find the seam right in there, because it has that nice little point. Let's put it down like that so you can see it. Oops, nice little point. And it has this part, that part right there, so it's a nice little handle, and you just go along the side. Now, it's really simple. Let's get these out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Just like this. Very simple. Now I've done this with knives and scissors and, whatever I had on hand. The problem was I would actually rip the paper. So this has been the best tool ever. Then once you have your little piece of paper, let's go ahead and put this over on the side. Now, you can paint on the block, but there's a reason why I'm separating the paper here. So if we have a little frame like this, you'll be able to see we've got a couple of them like this, just like that. It looks like it has a mat in there. So what we're going to do is just take the back off of the standard size frame. I'm going to take the little painting out so you can see the process. Take the glass out just like this, lay it on the paper, and again, this can be scrap paper, it can be hot press, cold press, whatever you prefer. I liked the hot press because I had never used it, and it also gave me some very interesting results. So I have it on my paper here, and I'm going to make, actually, we'll just go ahead and, no, we'll do this. Let's take a little line like this, move that over, and then make a line all the way down. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it individually, but why I'm doing it this way is in case I want to just make a big strip of tape. So we'll just go ahead and line it up, just like that, all the way around, move it down. And why, I'm sure you already know all sorts of ways that you can do this, but this has such a nice result. Okay, so once I have removed the glass, I have my line here on my little piece of paper. I'm going to take some washi tape. Any size will do if you want a smaller painting or a large, either one. It's up to you, whatever you have. And this is washi tape, so that means it doesn't have a real heavy tack to it. And when we do it on watercolor paper, we have to be careful too, depending on the surface. If it is a softer size surface, it can actually tear the paper, so we want to be careful. And if you really don't want it to stick, you can go ahead, put it on your clothes like that, and get some lint on here so it doesn't stick. And actually, let me get some glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Let's line it up. Just like that. Let's do that all the way around. So like I said, you could do it individually, but this way it just is a little more efficient. Okay, and over here. And you get the idea. And then inside here. Now, if you want to, like, again, you don't have to use this particular paper. Any paper will do. Then I don't want to have a very detailed drawing. Since we're painting small, I'm going to keep my line drawing very, very simple. And here I've already gone ahead and put some on here, but you can see that the tape is curling. So what I could do is actually cut them in half if I wanted. And let's go ahead and just lay that down. And I'll do a couple examples for you. Now, since I live in Bolinas, I'm going to paint little beach scenes. And there is the mountain on the side of the lagoon, so I'm thinking about painting that too. The other thing I can do is once you're done, we have options. You can put it into that frame, which makes a fantastic gift, just like that. Also, like I said, these were in the miniature show and worked out very, very well. So if I have a little piece of paper like this, now why I'm using this, I could turn this into a card, fold it in half, but then again, this is a really good painting surface, so I don't necessarily want to waste it. So once I'm done, I would cut it in half, glue it on there. Now, it depends if you want to put give them a frame or not, or just send a card. Something like that. It's wonderful. And now you already know how to do little cards. I know that, but what you may not have been thinking about is the mat and how to keep it simple without overdoing your painting. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, I've got two images here, and I'm trying to decide if I want to keep it together or separate it. So maybe so you can see, I'm going to separate it. So I'm just going to take a little scissors like this, cut it in half, and I'll work with one of them. Now I'm going to decide which one do I want to do first. I have this little line drawing on here. You really can't see hardly anything, but that's what I'm going to work with. So what I'm thinking about is I'm not looking at anything. My idea is I'm going to have this as the sky, this is going to be land, and this is going to be a beach. So I've got my palette here. I'm not necessarily going to need green, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe that out. Just like that. And I want to create a sky. I'm thinking about the brushes I want to use. I'm going to use a wash modeler. And I think I want it to be really wet. I'm going to use some small squirrel quill and a small squirrel quill brushes, a natural number 6. I'm going to give that a try. I'll have a couple of my usual brushes, a number 14 or number 8 and a number 8, so we'll see. So let's scoot those over to the side and make some color. All right, I don't have a lot of color in my wells because it's not going to be a huge painting. I don't have to do anything major with it. So I'm going to scoot that over to the side. What might be also nice is to keep this at a small angle, just like that, so the color can run. I think I would like that a lot. So maybe what I'll do is take a couple brushes like this, or anything to give me a bit of a lift. In my palette, I'm going to make some, or here, we'll do a small lift. It's a pretty substantial paper, so I don't think I need a support. It's very small. I'm going to use some French ultramarine blue. Now the squirrel quill is going to hold more water, so I'm going to play with the amount of pressure that I apply. I like how it has skipped over the surface, so I'm going to try to leave that alone, but maybe just add a little tiny bit more color into it. And bring it down into where the ocean is going to be. Again, get maybe a little more color so it stands out. Get some waves just by touching the very tip of the brush to the paper. And then I want my sand. I'll use my yellow ochre, bring it into my blend, and do the same thing. Bring that down here. Just a few little things. And I want to have some mountains over there. Trying to decide, do I want to do that on dry paper or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that on dry paper. So let's go ahead, get the mountains in, mix it up with the other color. And why I can do this is because the clouds are white and it has a dry surface there. And I want to keep this loose. I was trying to decide, do I really want to add more detail, or is this exactly what I'm trying to achieve? Okay, maybe put a few little things in there. Wet sand. A little bit of wet sand. Not much. And let that dry. I'm thinking, do I want more color up here? But I don't really need to worry about that right now. I'll put that over to the side. And let's see. This is going to be a different composition. Nope, that one's fine. All right. The wonderful thing about a beach scene like this with the fog, you can really have mud in your palette because it is depending on the type of day you want to create. And if you want to have fun, you can even put maybe a little purple into it. Maybe that would be fun. All right, so let's go ahead, get some different colors over here. Let the very tip of the brush move across the paper. Maybe a little blue. Let's throw a little blue in there. Bring that down into the ocean. I was off a little bit there, so I'm going to go ahead and just touch a few spots. Even if it crawls, that's fine. Let's bring that ocean down. Create a few little waves. This is going to go along the shore. Just let the brush touch the paper. And get a beach in there just by using my yellow ochre. And see, this is going to be some sand. And like I said, I like the blooming effect that's happening in some of those. So I want to maybe encourage a bit more water. And since this is going to be the beach and the tide and the waves come in a little differently, I'm going to go ahead and try to give it an irregular edge. And more of that yellow. Great. And then since this area is dry, I'm going to go ahead and touch the paper and put a little mountain in. As a little land mass. Okay, that's a good foundation. I'm going to let that rest. Maybe throw a few little spots in there. That's kind of fun. I'll add a few little spots over there. I'm going to take some quinacridone gold and see what that's like. This should be dry enough. Oh, I think I'm going to switch my brush. Let's do that over here. It's still wet. Maybe even touch a few spots. This will be little beach grass. Let that rest. This is still very, very wet. So we're just going to allow some of that color to run and mingle. Then we have to let that dry. Let's get our little mountain over here. Some little beach grass. Not much. I like that. And maybe, I think I want to do something with the sky. I want to add more blue into it. I'm going to use my squirrel and the cerulean blue. Now the flat brush was fine, but I'm going to change it. And let's get some of those waves in there. Add a little spatter. Maybe not there, but that's okay. We'll see how that looks. Why not? All right, let's scoot that over to the side. Come back here. Now that can continue to dry. And that can dry. I do like having that blue sky a bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and layer on top of this. Soften and then get that the ocean in. And a few of those let's get a few little okay, this needs more detail. It doesn't seem to be doing exactly what I'd like it to. So I think I can get away with that if I put my little wet sand in. And I'd like that to dry before I do anything else to it. Here, let's get a few of those, that little hill in there. Those little spots ended up drying quite a bit, so I think that's fine. So let's go ahead, remove this. Now we have a nice little painting of a beach scene without a lot of detail. Let's do the same thing for this one. We need more of our mountain over there or our land. Just like that. This could use a bit more detail, lots of lines, it's a bit distracting. So what might make this fun, if I take some of that burnt sienna, and that was because that surface was very, very wet. It still is. Do a few little spots down there. That might break it up, and maybe I can come back in and add some detail later, or let's see if I can change the grasses just by pulling out that edge. Trying to decide if I'm done. Let's see what that looks like. That could use a bit more detail over there. Now once that dries, I could actually lift some of that out. Let's go back to this one for a second and get a few finer details in there. Okay. And let's get a little tiny bit more detail in our land over there. And we can call that one done, at least for now. They can use just a little more detail, not much. We don't want to overdo it. Allow those little blooms and blossoms to happen. When you're done, cut it along the pencil line, have your piece of glass, clean it off first, pop it into your frame. Then you've got a wonderful little painting. Now within an hour, you can actually really create 9 little paintings if you keep it simple. And you can always come back in and add more detail later. Or maybe you want to add a little sparkle or add a little Christmas tree, or depending on the season or holiday. I think it's a lot of fun, very quick, very simple, and it also helps to loosen you up for future paintings because you are to get it done within that short period of time. It forces you to be looser, and that is something that I've really enjoyed, so I hope you do too. Now, if you're interested in snow scenes, I'm going to include that in a link below. And right now I have it as a non-interactive course, but I might add it as an interactive course too. Or maybe I'll add more lessons into it. I've got quite a few in there already. And you could change those paintings into little scenes like this, or actually make them bigger. So until next time, have fun and happy painting. Bye-bye.